Okay, so today's Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. It is the Bitfarms daily broadcast. At least that's what we're temporarily calling these broadcasts, given the fact we've been focusing quite a bit on shares of Bitfarms. You know, people ask me all the time, man, why do you wear a hat seemingly in all your broadcasts? Look at my hair, man. This is like so messy. I am just going to pop this on. Not only is it a bit of a good luck charm, but it really saves me from the embarrassment of having what's left of my hair just be this crazy mess on these broadcasts. So listen, shares today are down about 16%, at least as of right now. Market's got about another 40 or so minutes of trading left. Look, there's been no news release by the company since, I believe, August 18th of this year. And that news release was to basically indicate that the company was appointing a AWS executive, former executive, current executive, I'd have to double check, to the Bitfarms board of directors. So as of August 18th, 2025, there has been, to the best of my knowledge, no formal news release by the company. However, on September 8th, I believe, September 9th, the shares of Bitfarms really started to accelerate, right? Not only with heavier volume, but the share price itself moving up quite dramatically. So that brings us to the crossroad at which we find ourselves right now. Hey, look, we see companies like Iron. I mean, what, above $40 a share? Last time I checked earlier today, not sure if they're still trading there. We see a lot of Bitcoin mining companies, right, that are pivoting, or at least indicating that they're pivoting into HPC AI. We see their share price going up. Soluna, there's a longtime stronghold digital mining shareholder, I think by the name of Daniel. Daniel, hey, I think if I recall correctly, you were really big on Soluna. My friend, you were up 100% yesterday if you so happen to still own the shares. And if you don't feel bad. There's always opportunity out there. My point is that, listen, it's not just Bitfarms, but really the entire space that's seen a lot of price action to the upside, right? So I've always been a little bit hesitant about this rally. Hey, I'm excited, I'm enthusiastic about it, but there's a part of me, and I think you've noticed that, right, where I'm a little bit hesitant. People tell me a couple weeks ago, hey man, should I go all in on Bitfarms? I'm like, man, I don't know. It feels a little bit like thin ice, I'd love to see a little bit more in the way of like a news release, a little bit more in the way of an update, a little bit more in the way of a business transaction, maybe the signing of a contract of some kind, something that would help provide a bit more of a foundation to the rally we're seeing. Now, I do understand there are a lot of us out there who believe that the company, or convinced that the company was grossly undervalued, like shockingly undervalued at sub $1 a share. I mean, there's no doubt about that, at least not for me. So yes, seeing shares get aggressively re-rated makes sense. I don't know that we were fairly valued at whatever, 95 cents a share. That seems ridiculous. I don't know that absent any news, we'd be fairly valued at $50 a share. You know what I'm trying to get at? I'm trying to just keep it real here. So, look, we're at a little bit below $3 a share, right? $2.58 or so the last time I looked. It's going to be a bumpy ride. I don't expect that this is going to be a straight moonshot to 5 to 10 and beyond, absent there being the accelerant of some additional information by the company. Otherwise, hey, look, if you're brand new to the shares, you're just like, hey man, I just got in like a little over $3 a share. I thought the momentum was building. I thought we might break out to $5. I thought we might go to 7 to 10 to 15 to 20. I thought this Bitfarms would in fact be the next Iron. And so far, maybe it's not turning out to be that way. Well, give it some time. I think with the right, business updates by Bitfarms, right, with the right type of potential revenue being mentioned in terms of, hey, we signed a contract, or we're in discussions for a deal that could be worth up to X, Y, Z, absent something like that, I agree that, hey, maybe getting the shares re-rated to 3, maybe 4 kind of makes sense. But, beyond that, I would expect for there to be a little bit more substance, right, so that the foundation can be a bit stronger. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't share something with you. Okay, let's just kind of keep it between you and me. So what I did not that long ago was I took that original investment, if you want to call it that. It feels like a gamble, right? That original investment in Bitfarms. which was, I believe, at an average price of about 95 cents a share. So I removed that original investment, right? And you hang on to the rest, right? That's all kind of like house money, so to speak. And I reallocated that small, well, not that small, but that 95 cent a share average buy-in price, right? That original chunk of money that kind of got added to Bitfarms to come up with that number. I actually reallocated it in a really, really speculative way to a company called Canaan. Canaan. I've heard all these different permutations of how to pronounce this company's name. Ticker symbol CAN. Now, this is not by any stretch of the imagination investment advice, but I'm just sharing this with you because I have long been fond of this particular company. Not only did I use some of their mining products way back in the day, but Stronghold Digital Mining had a very, I think, win-win business relationship with Canaan. I'll just call him Canaan. Back during Stronghold Digital Mining's time as a standalone company. They're trading under $1 a share. They've got 1,547 Bitcoin on their balance sheet as part of a treasury strategy. That's actually more Bitcoin than Bitfarms. They've got a $30 million share repurchase or like buyback program that they initiated over the summer. The founder, chairman, and CEO and the CFO both bought, I think, something like upwards of like 800 some odd thousand shares of the company over the summer as well at, I think, around 76 or so cents a share. Now, here's the part that really gets kind of crazy. So they are facing potential delisting if they cannot get their share price back to a minimum bid of, I believe, $1 for at least 10 consecutive trading days or business days, And that deadline is November 10th. Now, if you look at a chart of the company, it seems as if, though, this is one of those weird deals where they just seem to explode, like the share price. And it certainly happened towards the end of last year, and it kind of went in through a little bit of this year. And given what is kind of shaping up here to be a very unusual scenario in which, to the best of my knowledge, they don't have any share consolidation or reverse stock split plan in place, doesn't mean they can't quickly put one together. But as of right now, they don't have one in place. They do continue to release monthly Bitcoin updates and business updates. So I'm expecting one of those to come out in early October to basically cover September. And so I would expect that there's a potential catalyst in that update combined with the vast majority of that $30 million repurchase plan has not, as of the last publicly available information, had not really been tapped into a whole lot. So the potential exists for Canaan to unleash like a real just buying blitz, right, into their own shares that were purchased in addition to what they already got. They bought even more shares, right? The CFO and the CEO / chairman founder. And so you've got this setup here where, think about it logically, right? They can kind of make sure that they're releasing legitimately great news at the beginning of October. Companies do have that latitude to sort of hold certain cards for a little bit and then kind of release them strategically. So it's a bit of a gamble. It's a bit of a flyer, but I think there's a reasonable chance that shares of Canaan, which are still they're under 80 cents a share, maybe 75, 76, 77 cents a share. Haven't really looked today, but I think there's a reasonable chance that stock can actually get up above $1 and possibly beyond. The kicker with Canaan is they make Bitcoin mining machines, pretty damn good ones too, generally speaking. And so not only do they make these Bitcoin mining machines, which have been referred to as money printing machines, but they also, of course, sell those machines to companies such as CleanSpark, any name that you could think of the major miners out there, including companies overseas that none of us have ever heard of. They sell a lot to that category of customer. They also are making huge waves in the home mining market, which I think is so damn amazing because it's helping to preserve the decentralized nature of the Bitcoin network. And during the H.C. Wainwright investment conference held in New York City in early September, which I had the privilege to listen to, the company, meaning Canaan, mentioned, right, hey, our home sales have doubled so far. And it's not even like, and they're like, oh yeah, and we've mentioned this publicly. I mean, I don't know. I kind of searched some of those public filings. I don't know that I necessarily saw that. Sometimes little things slip out, right? Like during these investment conferences, you're excited, kind of sharing news. So, I think there's a reasonable chance that this company, which had revenue of just over $100 million in Q2 2025, they're guiding for well over $100 million in revenue for Q3 2025, right? And that's the quarter that we're in right now. But I don't know. It looks like their business is kind of turning around. They've got a very robust HODL at about 1,547 Bitcoin. They mine the stuff themselves. They've got, I think, upwards of 10 exahash of like mining capacity. That, like, in other words, they sell the machines, they mine Bitcoin, they've got a treasury. This is a company that I don't know is fairly valued where they're at, but even leaving aside the valuation issue, you've got a listing concern issue. So are they going to do a reverse stock split, or are they going to unleash the floodgates, really start buying the stock aggressively, meaning the company itself? Will that potentially create a bit of a short squeeze? As of the end of August, if I'm not mistaken, there were something like 40 plus million shares of this company sold short. That's a lot of potential stock that may have to be bought back if the shorts really start to feel the squeeze. So I'm just sharing that with you because, not every idea works out, but I'm just thinking that something feels as if though it's going to break in the direction of the company and that we're going to see the share price bounce up above $1. Now, the risks are that you have the price of Bitcoin really collapse, that you have some sort of geopolitical situation arise that really creates some problems. Somebody I shared this with said, hey man, but what about the tariffs? Isn't that like a problem? The company has very shrewdly mitigated a lot of that by actually starting to manufacture their Bitcoin mining machines in California. That's brilliant because, hey, it's made in the United States. So if you have a US-based customer that wants to buy Bitcoin mining machines, you can therefore do so and get it directly from the US itself, right? You sort of circumvent the whole tariff thing. Which I think is really, really intriguing. Anyway, let me know what you think. Again, hey, this is an investment advice. I'm just sharing something that I chose to do because it kind of feels as if though this might be setting up for something pretty amazing and special. Not to mention, their stock hasn't really rallied. Like, every other Bitcoin mining company has really kind of gone up in price. Granted, it's predicated largely on the idea that they're all going to pivot into HPC AI. But let's kind of keep it real. Bitcoin is kind of how we got started in this whole business, right? A lot of these Bitcoin miners, the reason we know about them is because of the word Bitcoin, not because of HPC AI. So to the extent Bitcoin is going to rally into year end, I think Canaan can benefit from that. And but just more immediately here, I think in the next 30 days, there are some potential huge catalysts that are going to potentially push the stock price back over $1 a share. We shall see. Okay, my friend. Let's stay positive. Let's be great. Let's keep rooting for Bitfarms, and we'll see each other again very, very soon.